The Gila Wilderness is celebrating its 100th anniversary as a federally designated wilderness area. It was the first designated wilderness area in the nation and plays a key role in preserving New Mexico history and guiding the future of New Mexico's ecology.
Today, wilderness is really considered the highest form of protection for public lands anywhere in the world. Um, and that idea that we should have this special kind of designation started right here in Southwest New Mexico 100 years ago in 1924. So at that time, the Forest Service, which manages the Gila, was very new. And this was a time of great change for the American landscape. And managing forests and managing landscapes for the National Forest Service at that time meant things like, fire suppression, the removal of top predators, the introducing of non-native fish to lakes and rivers, and this really kind of hands-on management approach. And of course, over time, we've learned that a lot of those actions have really not resulted in, the best outcome for these special places. In fact, they've caused lots of decline in terms of ecosystem health and cultural value. So 100 years ago, visionary ecologist and forester Aldo Leopold had this really radical idea. And this idea was, what if we just kind of took this hands-off approach and we really let, nature lead the way? And that's the whole idea behind wilderness, that we're going to set these areas aside. And there are certain key prohibitions for that. So that means no road building, no motorized equipment, no mechanized travel, and really all management actions are supposed to be, taken with the utmost restraint.
The game changing protections set in place 100 years ago aren't the only reason the Gila area is special. Hundreds of years ago, it was home to ancestral Puebloans who lived in the area now known as the Gila Cliff Dwellings National Monument. More recently, as European descended settlers moved in, the Gila area offered mining, timber, and grazing opportunities, economic bounties that helped communities in southern New Mexico prosper. Now, the Gila continues to play a key role in New Mexico ecology. The decades-long effort to reintroduce Mexican wolves to the area depends heavily on the Gila ecosystem.
The Gila provides this incredible habitat for these reintroduction programs, such as for the Mexican gray wolf. They need really tremendously large swaths of habitat in order to thrive and be successful. That's something that we have in wilderness. That's something we have in these large roadless areas. And wolves, they're keystone species. So many other species depend on their presence, and having them in the ecosystem really provides the basis for all this other ecosystem health and lots of ecosystem function.
Now, 100 years after the designation as a wilderness area, advocates are hoping the Gila can get even more protection. New Mexico Wild, for example, has been advocating for federal protections against dam construction that could impact the region.
The best way to really honor the legacy of those that came before us that stood up to defend this wild place in our backyard is to think about, what can we be doing today to set ourselves up to have something to celebrate 100 years from now. What we're celebrating really is the fact that folks had the courage to stand up and address this changing world and put these creative and bold systems in place that would preserve wildness in our backyards into the future. And a lot has changed over the last 100 years. So we're very thankful to have the Gila Wilderness in place. We're very thankful to have this 500,000 acre roadless area that's home to all these remarkable creatures, incredible biodiversity, this amazing landscape. But what we've also learned is that wilderness designation alone is really no longer adequate to protect from all of the threats and pressures that wild places face today. So since the Gila Wilderness was first designated in 1924, we've witnessed as a nation the height of the dam building era. And in New Mexico alone, there are over 400 major dams today, affecting a majority of the state's rivers. And in fact, in New Mexico, there's only one remaining undammed main stem river, and that's the Gila River. And even today in 2024, the Gila River is still without permanent protections to its free-flowing state. So, the Gila Wilderness was really drawn around the headwaters of the Gila River. So the river itself really inspired kind of the whole idea of wilderness, but it still is without these permanent protections today. So what a lot of community members have been advocating for a long time, and what we also are advocating for in Mexico Wild, is to get a wild and scenic designation in place for the Gila River, which would permanently prevent it from ever being dammed. Something that there have been multiple attempts for over the years.